Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. And today I want to talk about a book that is not so much unusual as it is more around, so focusing on literature from around the world. This is also a book club read that my friend Bevan picked out, and she picked out a real winner, as you'll find out later in this video. And if you're interested in joining that book club, click on the link to join the Discord, and we can give you more instructions about that then. But today's book is all about the independence in India and sisterly relationships. I am referring to Independence by Chitra Divakaruni, which was published in 2023. For those who don't know, Chitra Divakaruni is an Indian-American writer. She has been getting her work published since the early 90s and has written poetry, and books, among many other things. She also serves as a teacher, a professor at a university in Texas, I believe. And her work frequently focuses on magical realism, but also realistic fiction, as you'll see here, focusing on women and the Indian experience. Again, things that you see in this story right here. She's also written some fantasy and won acclaim for her work in that regard. And this is her most recent book. I would be very interested in reading some of her early literature just to see how she progressed and if it's as high quality as this book right here. So very much looking forward to talking about her and exploring her more in the future. But without further ado, let's talk about Independence. In the summary section, I won't do any spoilers, but in the analysis section I will. So if you're interested in this book at all, I recommend you go read it and then come back and watch this video as per usual. So without further ado, let's talk about Independence. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So Independence takes place in India during the time of the Indian independence movement between 1946 and 1948. It focuses on Priya and her family, primarily Deepa and Jamini, her sisters, but it also talks about Bini, her mother, and Navakumar, her father. Navakumar is a doctor, and Priya looks up to him, and she also wants to become a doctor. But Navakumar notes that Indian society is male-dominated, and she might have a hard time gaining inroads in that area. But he still encourages her and whatnot. And he even says, I'll let you sit for the entrance exam. What happens afterwards is another question entirely. And so Priya proceeds to study for that. Her family then goes to Calcutta for a vacation. They see the sights and have a good time. But very quickly, riots ensue because of a Muslim general strike protesting the Muslims' control of India or their lack of control in India. It leads to a series of riots, and Navakumar decides that he wants to go to his clinic in Calcutta in an effort to help those who are wounded in these riots. And so he goes, but a short while later, the family receives a call that Navakumar was shot in the streets while he was trying to help someone. And so the family goes to the clinic where they talk to Navakumar as he is dying. And his last words are essentially to watch out for or look out for the for something. He doesn't finish his sentence there. But the entire family plus Amit, who is Priya's sort of boyfriend, kind of interprets that differently to look out for the family, that it is their responsibility, which we later learn in the story might not be what he was exactly trying to say. And so Navakumar dies and the family is filled with a lot of grief. In particular, Bini is deeply upset and blames the Muslims, although she has no proof that it is that the Muslims were the ones to shoot Navakumar. It could have been the Hindus in their fury, because both sides were kind of doing violence at this time. But Beanie refuses to hear that. And to make matters worse, Deepa has been dating a Muslim boy named Raza, which Beanie isn't happy about and forbids. But Deepa still sees him in secret, but eventually Beanie finds out and kicks Deepa out, unfortunately. And Deepa has to go back to Calcutta and live with Raza. She makes ends meet by working for the Muslim League, but she has to hide that she's a Hindu because that might cause violence towards her. Meanwhile, Priya gets engaged to Amit, partially because it'll be a financial assistance for her family that they desperately need now that Navakumar is dead, but also because she loves Amit. They've been childhood friends, and they really seem to like one another. Meanwhile, Priya finds out that she failed the entrance exam, and Amit's father, Somnath, encourages her to apply for a college in America because he doesn't want her to have to wait until India finally gets its independence. He encourages her to apply for a couple schools, which she does, but she doesn't tell anyone besides Somnath about that. Meanwhile, Deepa and Raza get married in an effort to sort of protect the secret even further, and they eventually have to move to East Bengal, which would later become East Pakistan or Bangladesh, because the Raza's job is taking him that far. And again, they have to keep up appearances and whatnot. Later, Priya finds that she's been accepted into this American college that she applied to. Amit finds out, and he is deeply upset because it would mean that although they are getting married, they would have to postpone their togetherness for at least 3 years. And Amit notes, maybe Priya doesn't want a husband, she just wants someone who will stand beside her as she achieves great things, which Amit doesn't want to be. He wants someone he can love and have a partner in this marriage. And so he breaks off the engagement, which fills Priya with sadness, but makes Jamini, her sister, happy because she's been waiting on the sidelines this entire time as she loves Amit. Later, Deepa finds that she is pregnant, and she gives birth to a daughter named Samira, which she's happy about, but sad because her family can't be a part of it because, again, they're in a different part of England now that it's being broken up, or India now that it's being broken up. There are riots in Ranipur where Jamini and Beanie are at, and unfortunately Jamini gets attacked and almost raped, but Beanie manages to protect her, and Amit also manages to save the day. And it's there that Jamini develops confidence and knows that she never wants this to happen to her again, but she also comes to understand that Amit will never truly love her the way that he loves Priya, because it's just a different experience there. But later, we find in a letter that Jamini actually got engaged to Amit. And Priya returns and asks questions about why this happened, which we find out it was at the request of Beanie because she notes that no one's ever going to look at Jamini because someone tried to rape her and now she's viewed as damaged goods or something like that. But Priya decides to return, and what happens from there and the rest of the story, that is left for you to discover. I'll talk about it a little bit in the analysis section, but I will not spoil those parts here. And that's pretty much how the story goes. In terms of analysis, boy howdy, is there quite a bit worth talking about with Independence. A really emotional, raw emotion, even like a really emotional story that highlights the connections between sisters and family in a time of great struggle, such as with India's independence. But one of the themes, one of the main ideas that is sort of a through line through this story is that of sisterly dynamics, the sisterly relationship. Much of the story focuses on the relationship between Deepa, Priya, and Jamini, the ways that they're connected, the ways that they oppose one another, and the underlying love that exists in this relationship. Deepa and Jamini have an unusual sisterly relationship. They love each other, but Jamini is disabled in this story. Like, she has a limp that is very noticeable, and people look down on her, even though she is very competent in the story. Like, she's the only one who really understands how to interact with her mother, especially after the loss of Navakumar. But because Jamini has very little to her name, She takes pride in her singing, but she notes that Deepa has a way better singing voice and gets more attention. And so at one point, Jamini just asks Deepa to stop singing, which Deepa obliges because, she's willing to do anything for her sister. But later in the story, when she's on her own, she finds that passion in singing again and wonders why she ever stopped. So again, a little bit of the sacrifices we make in order to appease the ones that we love. And then you have Priya and Jamini's relationship, which is filled with all kinds of strife and complications, because Priya and Jamini both love Amit. Priya and Amit have been friends for years, and there's that underlying love, and you know that outside of any difficult circumstances, they would have a very successful marriage and live a great life. But because of independence and everything, and Priya's desire to become a doctor, things are more complicated. And Jamini loves Priya. She loves Amit, but she realizes that she can never be with Amit while Priya is around. And so when Priya goes to America, she's like, well, this is my opportunity. I love you. Goodbye, sister. I'll miss you, but never come back. She doesn't exactly say that, but you get that through the writing here. Allow me to read you an interesting quote from this. When Jamini wishes Priya success in America, she means it. She is less sincere when she says she hopes Priya will return soon. She loves Priya, but in her shadow she will always be the stunted sapling. If Priya makes a home for herself in America, a happy one, of course, would that not be the best for both of them? And there's there's Jamini kind of hoping that Priya will stay in America, become a doctor, and live a great life there. Sure, she'll miss her and whatnot, but she knows that maybe she'll get closer to Amit in that regard. So a desire to be with your sister, but knowing that she stands in your way. And it's very, I love how Divakaruni gets at those complicated emotions there. So there's strong amounts of jealousy and fear, but ultimately love persists. They love each other. They keep coming back to one another, and they're willing to do anything, even sacrifice themselves. Because when Deepa, later in the story, Deepa's husband dies, and a Muslim military man is like, I want to marry this woman, but Deepa just wants to return back home, which he doesn't allow, possibly because of all the secrecy she shrouded herself with. But Jamini and Priya sacrifice themselves in order to go get Deepa and be super secretive about it. And Jamini even sacrifices herself so that Priya can be with Amit. But even though Priya recognizes that that's stupid, but they end up all rescuing one another in the end. But it shows the sacrifices that you're willing to make for family, especially when that bond is so strong. Another theme of this story is grief anger. I'm choosing to call it grief anger because I don't think there's a word in the English language for what I'm trying to describe. Or if there is, I'm not really aware of it. There might be a good word in another language, possibly Hindi or a related language, but I can't think of one. So Divakaruni here shows that we can make bad choices when afflicted with sadness, with depression, that we lash out at others. And I think that's the heart of what grief anger is. We see Benny, who views Muslims as responsible for her husband's death, even though she has no real proof of that. She's so angry that Deepa is dating a Muslim boy, a Muslim young man, that she sends Deepa away, just cutting her off and making it difficult for Deepa to have her own life. Just making a truly horrendous relationship type action because of the underlying sadness that exists within you. And then Jamini rages at Priya in the same way. When Priya goes to America, she's happy, and then she becomes engaged and marries Amit. And then Priya comes back because she's wondering what the extent of the relationship is and if there's any hope for her to be with Amit before she just continues her life in America. Kind of wondering what if. But when Jamini sees Priya, she's just so filled with anger and frustration and sadness. She threatens to kill herself. If you ruin my life here, there's nothing left for me. You have fully and totally embarrassed me, which is something you don't want to say to your sister. It could damage the relationship right there. There's a really good quote that I would like to read to you from this. But that night she comes into Priya's room and says, "Why did you come back? You had everything you wanted in America." Says, "I had given up on love, but then Amit chose me. Says, if he should leave me for you, I do not think I can bear it. She says some other things. Priya cannot tear her eyes away from her sister. She had expected hatred on Jamini's face, fury. Instead, Jamini looked surprised, as though she had not expected to say these hurtful things, as though she cannot stop herself, as though her lips have taken on a life of their own. And there you see the underlying, like, raw anger kind of emotion that you maybe don't intend when you're filled with sadness. Priya has come back into her life and is going to it seems like she's going to take Ahmed away from her, the guy that she wants, the happiness that maybe she thinks she's found for herself. And Jamini's like, I might kill myself. She doesn't even realize what she's saying, really. Like, the anger is kind of guiding her in a way that maybe she doesn't fully realize she's doing, and it's damaging the sisterly relationship. And you also see this with Amit calling off the engagement between Priya and him. Like, he's so filled with sadness that Priya's just going to go away to America and leave him kind of on the side, that he's like, I don't even think you're capable of loving me. I don't think you want to be with me. Maybe you just want love. Maybe you're just hoping that this will be a great thing for your family, but I'm not sure you want this. And so he calls off the engagement, which fills them both with a lot of sadness and makes it so they're not fully there. Like, this has hurt them so much that they're forever changed, and maybe it's damaged their love, their opportunities for love down the road. And it really shows, like, what Divakaruni is showing here, like, how quickly love can turn to ruin when something bad happens. Like, you might love somebody, but if grief fills your heart, you might lash out at them because they're the only one there, and, like, there's no rational way to express your anger or something like that. So Divakaruni is doing some really good things with emotion in this story. Divakaruni is also talking about the dimensions of independence here. India is torn apart due to religious differences. In a time when India should be celebrating, there is a lot of religious and political violence going on because everybody wants some amount of power and they don't want to be left out of these discussions. So there's not all unity here. There's a lot of internal strife going on. And a lot of it is fueled by colonialism, because the British are playing a large role in dividing up India in order for these people to all have some amount of power, which ends up resulting in Pakistan, East Pakistan, which would later become Bangladesh, and India in general. But there's underlying colonialism there because the British don't believe that the India are capable of governing themselves. They're also speeding up the process because the guy running at Mountbatten is a maniac who just wants to focus on his own naval career and doesn't really care for the Indian people. Of course, later he would be assassinated because of his views on the Irish, and also because he wouldn't be assassinated for it, but he was later revealed to be a child abuser and also maybe a pedophile. So not a decent human being. But all that underlying colonialism is kind of tearing India apart. Like, even as it gains its independence, the footprint of colonialism is still there, and is on the verge of maybe ruining India. And it doesn't help that the people in power are kind of fueling these divisions too, because they want more power. They're not prepared to have a united India or anything like that. They want their own sense of control there, and it's made even worse by the fact that women aren't really given any power at this time. Like, colonialism has its place, but there's also a sense of women being left behind in talks for getting their own power. It's not as great as in maybe other countries, but the women, they're such a foothold. They're kind of the foundation of Indian society, and they're being ignored in this time in independence. So a real struggle there. And Divakaruni is showing that the sort of scope of independence and how some people might be left out, and how it's still, even though you're trying to escape from that colonialism past, it's still there a little bit. There are other amazing things about this story, including the matter-of-fact writing, kind of blunt and to the point, which you saw in some of the quotes I was using there. It just fact, this happens, that happens, this happens, and it kind of feels divided from emotion, but also because Divakaruni is so great at infusing emotion in her stories. Like it doesn't like that matter of fact writing could ruin a story, but here I think it does really well and really adds to the overall enjoyment of it. So I think Divakaruni deserves credit for that. She also touches upon the importance of community, how like Hindus and Muslims have lived together for centuries in India, and only after these colonialist powers and these people seeking religious power, like only after that happens do these communities fight each other and tear themselves apart. So there's a good example of how one of the fishermen in the story works with Deepa and Priya. He's a Muslim and he's willing to help them against oppressive Muslims and whatnot. So there's still that community there, and it's what's most important, and you shouldn't let people divide you like that. And then you also have Navakumar's last words in the story, how he's like, he says, take care of, and then he dies, and everyone interprets that to mean take care of the family. And so they each want to take care of the family in their own way, which puts them at odds with one another. But later, as Amit is dying, unfortunately, he dies in the story, he says, I was wrong, we were both wrong. What he meant to say was not take care of the family, but take care of each other. Focus on each other's needs and help each other rise up. And so that way we're not, engaging in petty struggles for who's going to control the direction of the family or whatnot. And it's really powerful how Divakaruni really gets at all that, how she reveals those last words right there in changing the meaning of what Navakumar was really trying to say. There are a few issues with the story. I do think the rescue at the end is a bit silly. The family tries to rescue Deepa, and Jamini kind of fills in her place because she can't really escape in a normal way. And then Priya tries to rescue Jamini, and Amit gets shot. And the whole rescue just feels very silly, out of place in this story. Not enough to sink the story, but it does kind of drag on a little bit, and it's like, okay, why does everyone feel the need to sacrifice themselves here? It's becoming a little bit of a joke at a certain point. And then at the same time, Priya's story feels unfinished because at the end of the story, Amit dies, and Priya writes back to her, the man that she loved in America, and says, I can't return to the college, I can't return to you, I feel too hollow and I'm not capable of love. And you really think that at some point, maybe she might return and meet with that man again. That feels like a natural progression to the story. Or maybe he might come and try to convince her that she is capable of love and that she does deserve love. Because it seems like Jamini gets her sort of happy ending because she gets pregnant through her relationship with Amit, and Deepa has her child, but Priya only has her doctor career, and she doesn't seem to have a strong ending there. But maybe that's the theme of the story, is that sometimes these grand events, sometimes we're left broken, and all we have are the memories of our happier selves, and we choose what path we take after that. So it does kind of fit with the overall theme of the story, but it does feel a little bit unfinished in my eyes. I guess what I'm saying is this story is very sad, and I would have liked a little bit happier ending there, but it's not enough to ruin it, because it definitely feels in line with what Divakaruni is saying overall. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Independence by Chitra Divakaruni. An amazing story, probably one of the best stories that I read this year, and it's coming in so late in December. I do have to commend Bevan for selecting this book, because it's a very good book club read, one that I haven't really had felt a lot of emotion from in a while. Bevan picks good books normally, but this one really stood out, and I definitely recommend it to you out there. If you're looking for international literature, this will probably be a high quality book for you. But also, if you're looking for something emotional and something that'll hit you pretty hard, this will definitely do that. It's a strong recommendation from me. If you have any thoughts or comments about it, or something to say about my review here, do so in the comments below. Would love to hear from you and have a discussion there. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, join the Discord if you're interested in discussing things further, or want to talk about movies or books or other weird things in the Discord. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and independence-seeking travels. Farewell.